So, my username is the Magic Railroad Studios. That must mean I'm such a huge fan of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, right? Well, you're not wrong, but considering others' opinions about the movie, my thoughts about it have been changed a bit. This year, the film is officially turning 25 years old, so I think it's a perfect time to finally get around to doing a review on it. And since I did a ranking on the 7 classic seasons, I believe it's time to take a look at the movie in between seasons 5 and 6. I'll be talking about how this film was made, talk about the story, then go through the positives and negatives, the outcome, and my final thoughts on the movie. I'll also have a little segment in the video where some friends of mine shared their thoughts on the film and what they like, dislike, and their final thoughts. Also, stay until the very end of the video because I will be announcing something special for next year. Enough rambling, let's get around to Thomas's first ever film ever made and what kind of led people to see Thomas very differently afterwards. This is Thomas and the Magic Railroad. In the 1990s, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends was on the top of the freaking world. Everywhere you go, Thomas was everywhere. From VHS tapes, toys, books, and even live events. Even hearing the show's tune was everywhere as well. During the production of the 4th season, the show creator Britt Allcroft was approached by the CEO of Destination Films and former vice chairman, Paramount Pictures, Barry London. London's 3-year-old daughter was a fan of Thomas and discussed the idea of a full-length film. Paramount shelved the film idea after London left the company. Later on, London, who was now the chairman of Destination Films, expressed interest in the film again. Britt also decided to include Shining Time Station into the film, the show that helped introduce Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends to the United States. For unknown reasons, the filming for the Thomas scenes were not filmed at Shepperton Studios like in the show, but were instead shot in Toronto, Canada. For the Shining Time scenes, they were filmed either on the Isle of Man or in the Strasburg Railroad in Pennsylvania. For the role of Mr. Conductor, Alec Baldwin, who was the US narrator at the time, was asked to play the role, and he accepted it. The other actors that joined the cast were Peter Fonda, Mara Wilson, Michael E. Rogers, Russell Means, Cody McCains, and Dee Dee Conn, who is the only actress from Shining Time Station to reprise her role as Stacy Jones. As for the villain of the film, P.T. Boomer would be played by the late Doug Lennox. John Bellis was asked to play the role of Thomas. Bellis was a part-time taxi driver, and when he was transporting Britt and her crew, she thought his voice would be perfect for Thomas.
I'm meeting Mr. Conductor. He's taking care of us while Sir Topham Hatt takes a very important holiday.
Australian actor Keith Scott would play the role of the film's other villain, Diesel 10.
You will always need help, because steam engines are cowardly, cranky, worn-out hunks of metal who couldn't hurt a fly.
Michael Angelis, the show's UK narrator at the time, would play the role as James and Percy.
Oh, we must get Lily back to her grandpa now in case the Magic Railroad is closed forever. My wheels were feeling worn out with work, so Sir Topham Hatt told me to think about all the ways I can be a really useful engine.
And Diesel 10's sidekicks, Splatter and Dodge, were going to be played by Patrick Breen, who plays the narrator in Britt Allcroft's other show, The Magic Adventures of Mumphy.
No, do it yourself. Yeah, do it yourself. We mean that. Yeah, we mean that.
The Lost Engine Lady was originally not going to have a voice at all and would speak with telepathy, but this was later changed to have Britt Allcroft herself voice her.
And helping each other brings to life the magic in all of us.
The scenes with the Magic Railroad itself, along with Thomas and Lady, would be the first Thomas production to use CGI. Originally, they were going to use Thomas and Lady's props for the scenes, but they didn't turn out as well as they hoped. And after all that, production wrapped later in 1999, and the movie was set for a summer release in 2000. In early 2000, test screenings were shown to test audiences, and a lot of stuff, and I do mean a lot of stuff, was cut out. Doug Lennox's character, P.T. Boomer, was cut from the movie entirely, due to him being too scary for children, making Diesel 10 the villain for the final cut of the movie. Michael Angelis, who was to play James and Percy, was deemed too old, so he was replaced with two female actresses, Linda Ballantyne and Susan Roman, respectively.
You weren't concentrating, Thomas. Lucky for you that the buffers were there.
Oh, but Mr. Conductor, without your sparkle or the lost engine, you can't travel here to help us anymore.
Fun fact, both actually played together in the Japanese manga series Sailor Moon. Keith Scott was deemed too scary as Diesel 10 and was replaced with Neil Crone. Originally, Crone provided a Russian accent, but test audiences thought it was too offensive. So he just gave him a New Jersey-style accent.
You'll always need help, because steam engines are cowardly, cranky, worn-out hunks of metal who couldn't hurt a fly.
John Bellis as Thomas was also replaced for sounding too old, so Eddie Glenn took over.
I'm meeting Mr. Conductor. He's looking after us while Sir Topham Hatt takes a much-needed holiday.
Despite being one of the main characters, Edward was not in either cut of the film, due to not having enough time to utilize him. Cranky and George the Steamroller were also meant to appear, but were also dropped. Cranky, however, can be seen as a cameo in the final cut for a few seconds, and George was actually meant to help out Diesel 10's plan by destroying the buffers all over the railway so that they can find the magic buffers, until deciding to quit working for him. Lily was also meant to tell the story as an adult reading to her children years later, but was replaced by Mr. Conductor telling the story instead. So now that we're done talking about the production and some of the cuts from the script, let's begin talking about the story. This is probably one of the most complex plots I've seen. So, Sir Topham Hatt is on a holiday and he asks Mr. Conductor to look after his railway while he's gone. But while he's in charge of the railway, he begins to lose his gold dust, so he has to figure out how to get more. But while that's happening, Lily Stone travels from the big city to visit her grandfather, called Burnett Stone. Burnett has a steam engine called Lady, who is the guardian that holds the secret to a magical railroad that connects the island of Sodor and Shining Time. And while that's happening, an evil diesel engine called Diesel 10 arrives on the island of Sodor and threatens to destroy Lady and all the steam engines and replace them with diesels. So, after I basically explained the plot, I want you all to think to yourselves real quick. Don't you feel like something is missing from the explanation I just told? Take a wild guess. I'll give you a few seconds. Did you get it? Yeah, I didn't mention Thomas at all. That's right. Thomas the Tank Engine only appears for 12 minutes in his own movie, and yet his name is on the title. So sorry, little Timmy. You thought you were going to see a Thomas movie to see him on his biggest adventure yet? Well, sorry. Here's Alec Baldwin going insane on a movie set instead. Merry Christmas. Even the other Sodor characters don't get to do much either. Percy spies on the diesels, Toby distracts the diesels, Henry needs special coal, and the coal becomes relevant later, and James and Jr. have a scene where they escape from Diesel 10, and Gordon didn't really do much. Damn. Well, sorry, Gordon. But I mean, Thomas isn't completely pointless in this movie. He does bring Lily back to Muffle Mountain and collected the coal truck for Lady, but that's really it. After that, Thomas is just there for the ride for the rest of the movie. Hell, he barely interacts with Diesel 10, and we don't even get a scene where these two are speaking to each other. We could have had more scenes with Thomas himself, like maybe have a moment with him and Annie and Clarabelle. In the original script, Lady is diverted into a sighting and Thomas actually leads Diesel 10 towards the collapsing viaduct. That would have honestly been such a heroic moment for Thomas. Literally, this movie could really work without Thomas at all, and nothing would really change except for a few things. This is kind of similar to Cars 2, where you expect to see a sequel about Lightning McQueen racing against other international race cars, but instead we see Mater acting like a dumbass, and McQueen barely becomes a character until the end. As for the human characters, it's not much better. Most of these characters are from Shining Time Station, which I said earlier was a show that helped introduce the United States to Thomas and Friends. Now, most Thomas fans, like me, have probably never seen Shining Time Station, or were even born when it was a thing, or fans from other countries like the UK, where Thomas originated from, will be confused, like, who is Mr. Conductor? What is Shining Time Station? How is this connected to Thomas? And thus, the movie has a hard time explaining that to audiences. The UK and all these other countries won't know who these characters are because Shining Time Station never aired. Shining Time Station was made to get Thomas to American audiences, and they take up most of the screen time away from the Thomas characters. Even the original cut that's on the Blu-ray featured more human scenes, and the screen times on the trains diminished even more. The acting here is decent, I guess, except for Alec Baldwin and Michael E. Rogers. They're both great. Baldwin just seems to look like he's having a fun time, and I agree with Thomas 1, Edward 2, Henry 3. Baldwin seems to have a lot more energy in here than he does in season 5.
Where were you?
He even said in an interview that he had a great time working with Allcroft.
I just adored Britt. And when she said to me, do you want to do this show? I said, sure. And there is, kind of an unavoidable likability factor. And I just really loved Britt.
Michael E. Rogers also looks like he had a fun time here, and he even looks like he had more fun than Baldwin.
No, this is his cousin. Who's this? Oh, hello, Hattie. No, he's hanging around here somewhere.
Honestly, the movie should have had these two as the main human leads instead. Now we have Peter Fonda playing as Burnett Stoney. He's alright, I guess. I don't know what to overall think of his acting here. Many people complain about his performance being too depressing and too serious for most of the time. And while I will agree with most others that his acting here is definitely over depressing, but not many really take into account that it's not only Lady not working that's making him upset, that's part of it. His wife Tasha recently in the events of the movie died, but again, I do agree that he could have done it a little bit better. Then we have Mara Wilson playing Lily Stone.
You're coming with me to Grandpa's Bluebird? I know how much you like to travel.
Again, like Fonda's performance, she's alright. I don't really have much to say about Mara Wilson's acting in the film. She's overall alright in it, not too bad for a former child actress. But one thing though, why does she always have her mouth open? Just to rip the band-aid off, let's just get over the rest of the problems in this movie. Back to the engines, Sodor, while it looks amazing for a theatrical production, is completely lacking in characters and even human life. The engines don't have drivers nor firemen, there are no workmen in sight, and there are of course no regular people at any of the station platforms. It's been said that a lot of the props from the TV series had been transported to Canada. My question is, why use a lot of the props that also has many of the characters if you're not going to use all of them? A lot of Sodor's icons are not present. Edward, Duck, Oliver, both sets of twins, the diesels, and the narrow gauge engines aren't in this movie. There's some scenes that just repeat a previous scene. For example, the meeting scene has the engines talking about Diesel 10 finding Lady and it will destroy them all. But like, we just addressed this earlier, we already know that. And why are all of you just in a random sighting discussing this while Percy is doing all your guys' work? Then we have a scene where Toby spies on the Diesels, and Diesel 10 says his plan is to find Lady. But again, we already saw this earlier, we know. Even though I said Sodor looks beautiful and feels more real in this movie, Sodor in some areas feels also kind of like a cartoony fantasy land. For some reason, with absolutely no explanation at all, Mr. Conductor calls Junior using flower telephones, and there's a literal tumbleweed that's talking. This leads to the biggest problem that a lot of people have with this movie, and that's the introduction of the magic element. One of the reasons why Thomas and Friends is loved by many because it didn't treat the trains as cartoon characters, but actual real machines. It was based on a book series that was filled with so much lore and care put into it that it felt real. The engines were also based on real-life engines, and some of the accidents and incidents throughout the series were based on real-life accidents. With all of this, Thomas the Tank Engine is basically real. But then you come along and introduce all of this magic stuff like flowers, telephones, and tumbleweeds, and a magical engine that can go between worlds, meaning that the only way to get to Sodor is through magic. That's why some Thomas fans dislike this movie. Season 6 and onwards don't even mention the movie at all, but sadly, the bad reception to Magic Railroad kind of tinkered the public view of Thomas. They just see Thomas as a silly preschool show now, and it's not respected as much as it once was. I know some fans, including me and Angel Perilla Productions, created stories that might not fit for the Thomas universe. Hilda crossing over with Thomas. Hilda, a show that has fictional creatures and magic in it. But I think it's excusable because it's not an official Thomas production. It's fan-made and we can do whatever we want with it. We can use our imagination. This, meanwhile, is an official Thomas production. If they want to have magic in here, fine. But they should have done it a little more tastefully because this just all feels very wacky. Alright, now that we're done with the plot and the negatives of this movie, now let's get on to the positives. I know I said this earlier, but I love how Sodor looks in this movie. I think Magic Railroad's lighting is very nice. It's not like Season 4 where it looks like everything takes place in the evening and not over the top like Season 5, as much as I love Season 5. The colors are bright and beautiful and it still feels like we're watching the show kind of. The nighttime sequences are also pretty to look at. This only happens for a few seconds, but I love the moment where Thomas is traveling through the night with Lily. They go past the watermill and that forest with the slight fog. Even though I also said that with the absence of humans on Sodor, it makes it feel like Sodor is kind of desolate. The scenes where the engines are interacting with the people from Shining Time, at least it really does make it feel a little bit more real. I already talked about the new human characters, so I guess we'll start talking about the new engine characters. Let's start off with the most popular one, Diesel 10.
I hate it when you do that.
Wait! I want to do Diesel 10's part.
What? Why?
Because I like Diesel 10. He's cool.
Oh, alright then. Go ahead. I'm just gonna go over here.
Alright. Now, back to the video. The only thing from this movie that was actually remembered and brought into the actual show was Diesel 10. Diesel 10 is where the main conflict occurs in the movie, and he also gave a bunch of 2000s kids nightmares. I don't know why they originally decided to have P.T. Boomer be the main villain and have Diesel 10 remain as a side villain. Like, if it's a Thomas the Tank Engine movie, you would think they would have the one that's a train be the main villain, right? Diesel 10's design is iconic, and he is the perfect design for a train villain. It's not realistic at all, but honestly, who really cares? He's got a fun design and his faces are really menacing, besides this one. Even if he's the main villain, he has a lot of comedic scenes, particularly his interactions with Splatter and Dodge. These three work off of each other so well and are, in my opinion, the best parts of the film. The two best scenes with him and Splodge, in my opinion, are when we get introduced to Splodge.
Actually, it's a Splatter.
and Dodge.
I ain't got time to say both names.
Oh, well.
And the scene later on in the film that takes place at night.
It's the old teapot!
Even though he's funny, he can also be pretty threatening at certain points. A good example of this is when he knocks the scaffolding down at the sheds and threatens Mr. C. Yeah, he backs off after Mr. C threatens him with sugar, but he still means business, and boy does he want you to know it. What I love so much about this version of Diesel 10 that his other appearances don't do with him is how loud and just out there he is. He has no problem with just showing up in the open and causing trouble. That's what I felt like was missing with his character in Day of the Diesels. He's always just in the shadows, which does work, but I feel like him being loud and just out there was what made him special. You had other characters show up and cause trouble previously, like Diesel, Class 40, and the Horde Lorries, but Diesel 10 felt like the first actual threat in the franchise. He had no problems with hanging Mr. C over the viaduct and threatening to drop him, or straight up almost killing Jameson Jr. in the smelters. That scene in particular is great because it shows he takes pride in playing with his victims.
That's it!
There's a lot of range to this character. Most of that comes from the great voice given to the character, Neil Crone. Him and Kevin Frank, a voice actor for Dodge, Henry, Birdie, Harold, and the Fat Controller,
Watch out for Diesel, definitely.
were both creative consultants for the film, and this really made Diesel 10's character. I'm sorry, but he's just really boring in the original work print of the film. He's got a great voice, Keith Scott did great, but the way Neil Crone just made him his character is awesome, and the improvised lines are just so funny.
Shut up, Kitsch.
Crone originally gave Diesel 10 a goofy Russian accent, but test audiences found that it was too offensive, so he decided to give him a goofy New Jersey accent. Diesel 10 is the best part of the movie, and without Neil Crone, he honestly would have been pretty boring.
Alright, Timothy, I think I can take it from here.
No, shut up, I want to talk about Splatter and Dodge now.
Oh my god.
Splatter and Dodge, or Splodge as Diesel 10 refers to them, are Diesel 10's lackeys that help him find the lost engine. Alongside Diesel 10, Splatter and Dodge are the best parts of the film. While Diesel 10 was an idiot, he still showed times of being threatening. Splodge, on the other hand, are just 100% stupid. Designs are kind of lackluster, with them just being repaints of Ari and Bert, but honestly, they're still fun designs with the choices of color they chose for them. Not to mention their face masks are hilarious to look at. Especially this one. What I love most about Splodge is just how awkward and kind of nerdy they are. Like, they will say the weirdest things out of nowhere, and it's always funny.
Hey, there they are.
We'll fix their wagons.
I'm not good at backing up.
Me neither.
Did you mean to look like that?
No.
Neither did I.
Emphatically.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I have no idea.
It's a good word.
This is probably a hot take, but I think in some instances they're funnier than Diesel 10. I'm glad the movie gave them scenes where they were just on their own, because I feel like that separates them from Diesel 10 in a lot of ways. Their best scene, in my opinion, is the scene where Percy spies on them. You can tell they're both scared to go through the buffers, and it's just so funny seeing them try to push the other twin into going through them.
Are we supposed to go through them?
Oh, not we, you.
Oh, not me. You.
Splatter and Dodge are always a treat when they're on screen, and it sucks that they never appeared again. I get having to repaint them back into Ari and Bert, but just make a couple casts of Ari and Bert's models and just use them for Splodge. The fact that they were going to return more than once is honestly really funny to me, because it shows that the crew kinda cared for them and wanted them back. Okay, I'm done talking. I'm out. Goodbye.
I'm still expecting a paycheck, Timothy.
Oh my god, shut up!
And then the final new engine character is Lady. Not much is really known about her other than that she is the engine that keeps the engines alive. I really wish that we could have gotten more information and lore for her. She sounds like an incredibly fascinating character to me, but it's just not really explained as much. Her being a magical engine that controls the magic railroad led to some fans kind of disliking her, which is their opinion, but I really like her. I mean, of course I do. I literally have a channel named after her railroad. Much like Diesel 10, she's also become a fan favorite. And again, it just makes me wish that they could have made her a character into the series afterwards. You don't have to make her a magical engine. Just somehow rewrite her into the series, I guess. As for the Sodor characters, they are all very much in character. The best one out of them is Thomas. Thomas, much like in Season 5, matured over time, but does act cheeky sometimes, like at the beginning when he teases Gordon.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Who do we appreciate? Practicing your numbers, Gordon. That's a good engine.
I'm counting how many seconds late you are. You weren't on time, little Thomas.
And you're being bossy, Gordon.
The other character I'm glad is still in character is Toby. Still the wise old man, but has a jokey side to him, which leads to a funny scene where he decides to spy on the Diesels and just distracts them by ringing his bell.
It's the old teapot! Oh. Smash him! Smash him? Wow! Push that.
Oh, Toby, The world is so much nicer when we see you. And speaking of the Sodor characters, let's talk about their voice actors. All of them, or at least most of them, definitely fit the characters. Some of these are what I'd imagine what they'd sound like. But unfortunately, it's not the case for James.
I was naughty and Sir Topham Hatt told me to think about all the ways I can be really useful. Then I can come out again.
As I said earlier, James as well as Percy were originally supposed to be voiced by Michael Angelis, but was deemed too old sounding. So he was replaced by Linda Valentine and Susan Roman. Percy gets away with it because he is supposed to be a young sounding engine, and Linda's voice is perfect.
He talked about buffers in his sleep. Buffers are at the end of a railway. I think that's how he travels here, on a secret railway.
But for James, it just doesn't fit. I don't hate the voice. Roman gave it a try, but it's not really how James is supposed to sound. Then there's the music of the movie, and hot damn! Hummy Man, I believe, knocked it out of the park with his music. Sounds so whimsical and peaceful in some scenes, like when the engines are doing their jobs, or Thomas collecting Mr. Conductor, or even the beginning. Then there's scenes that just sound grand and triumphant, like Thomas collecting the coal truck on the Magic Railroad. And then there's the scenes where the music sounds very suspenseful and puts you on the edge of your seat. Diesel 10 backing James and Jr. into the smelting pit, and of course the famous chase scene at the end of the movie. But we can't forget about the songs in this movie too. I think all of them sound fantastic to me. Shining Time, well, it's generic, yes, but sounds nice to listen to. Summer Sundays is a nice little tune to listen to, but it sounds odd hearing a song like this in a Thomas production. I don't know why, it's just funny to me. Some Things Never Leave You is such a beautiful song. For a song about someone leaving the world behind in a Thomas film sounds emotional, kind of. Then there's the film's version of Really Useful Engine, the only song from the series to make it into the movie, and it's definitely my favorite song from it. The Adventure Begins version is a close second, but this sounds a lot more cinematic to me. I just wish it was longer. And the final song is Atomic Kitten's version of The Locomotion that appears in the end credits. Nothing much to say other than it's definitely a catchy tune, and I think it is a song that fits for Thomas. But with all the good stuff in this movie, looks and music couldn't save it, which leads to the outcome. Thomas and the Magic Railroad was officially released on July 14th in the UK and July 26th in the United States and Canada. At first, there were some positive reviews from critics, but then the movie would quickly receive mixed to negative reviews.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad seems so unsure of itself. Both Fonda and Baldwin seem stranded here in a world that never really becomes charming or magical or certainly even convincing.
Even today, others say the exact same thing in their own reviews.
There's nothing really magical about Sodor except for the fact that the trains talk. Wouldn't it make more sense just to have it all take place in one world? Why not just have a world where trains talk and that's it? Why have the real world in it at all?
The biggest problem with this movie is incorporating Shining Time Station, which takes up the majority of the film. Because of this, Thomas and his friends are barely in it.
If your film where the character whose name is in the title has next to nothing to do with what's going on, you've already failed miserably.
About the two major plot points of this movie had no progression until the last 5 minutes somehow.
Yeah, exactly. This entire movie was like, hey, look, trains. Anyway, oh yeah, there's a story.
And then we're going to go here, and then we're going to go here, and then we're going to go here, and here's a new character. I don't think the extra characters that were cut out of this movie would have helped at all.
This movie comes along and tells us the engines are all alive because of a magic engine living in the 12th dimension giving them all life. And Sodor is a magical land that one can only get to using gold dust or a magic railway, and basically exists in some bubble separate from the real world. That connection to what made Thomas so unique is broken.
At the time of this review, the film on Rotten Tomatoes is currently sitting at a 21% Rotten Tomatoes score, and that's a very, very bad score to get. And to add insult to injury, the film cost around $19 million to make, and it made back $19.7 million back. And this had led many fans to speculate maybe this was the reason that Alec Baldwin stepped down after season 6, and Mara Wilson to depart from acting altogether. But the worst thing to happen is what it caused Britt to do. In September 2000, she stepped down as company deputy chairman of her own company, which led it to be renamed to Ghislaine Entertainment, and then it was eventually bought by Hit Entertainment, and yeah, we all know what happened to the show afterwards. But on the bright side of things, the film has made its money back through home media, merchandise, and even a PC game, and years later, the film has received a cult following to this day. Fans either film remakes of their favorite moments from the film, create custom scenes, or even create their own rewritten versions of the film, like Mr. Conductor Fan 1406's Magic Railroad parody that came out in 2020, or even another improved version of the film that'll probably be released the same time as this review. Also in 2020, for the 20th anniversary of the film, it was released onto Blu-ray finally, complete with interviews from the actors, some behind-the-scenes footage, and even footage from the original cut of the movie. Such an awesome release, man. We're nearing the end of the review, and some of you are probably wondering, what are my thoughts on the movie? Do I actually still like it or not? Well, how about I let a couple friends of mine here explain their thoughts on the movie first. Alright boys, take it away.
Oh hey look, it's me, D10 Studios. I'm back in the video again. So, Thomas and the Magic Railroad. It's certainly a film, that's for sure. This movie was my first exposure to Thomas and Friends, so I am very biased in my thoughts on the film, but also, like, as a Thomas film, it's bad, but as, like, an actual, like, movie, it's horrendous. But I feel like many people who don't like Magic Railroad need to consider that this is a Shining Time Station film, not a Thomas film.
Even though they made him the title character.
You know, I think to start off with the problems, it's just, you know, there are a lot of bad things in this movie. The trains don't even get that much screen time. I remember I did a thing where I, like, took every single shot that had, like, the Thomas characters in it, and they're only in it for, like, 30 minutes of the film, which is crazy because you came to the movie theater to see Thomas, not Alec Baldwin in a train suit talking about the beach, that's it. Thomas elements themselves are really good, but they don't really serve that much of an importance other than I feel like they just added them in there just so they could be like, oh, yeah, Thomas is in this. Let's just throw these scenes in. I love all the Thomas scenes in this movie. I feel like they don't serve much of a purpose, really, like, on their own, other than, like, a few, really. You know, they don't really do much with it. Like, when Harold, like, flies through the yard and he blows the powder everywhere. Like, I feel like most of the Thomas scenes are really just pointless filler. As much as I love the Really Useful Engine segment, doesn't really do much. But that is to say, I love all the Thomas scenes in this, you know, they're great. As for the human scenes, though, like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to skip over the human scenes when watching it on DVD and stuff, because, like, again, I came here to see Thomas, not whatever the Peter Fonda's doing moping around in his little cave. But I think some of the human scenes are actually pretty entertaining looking back. Of course, there's Mr. Conductor and the, you know, brain veggies, we'll say. You know, I think a lot of the human cast is fun. You know, I think Michael E. Rogers is a very underrated actor. But I think the cast does okay with acting. There's, of course, obviously standouts. Peter Fonda, his acting it's good, but it's in the wrong film. Like, you can obviously make him sad, but not like, you know, not like how he is in the movie. I think the newly added train characters are the best parts of the film, obviously. You know, Lady, who we don't get much on, is entertaining when she's on screen. You know, same goes with Splatter and Dodge. You know, I really wish they came back. They're a lot of fun. They're really funny. How could I forget the best thing about the movie besides the soundtrack? You know, Diesel 10, one of the best designs in the show. I think the voice actor Neil Crone does so good. He is one of the best things to happen in the franchise, in my opinion, because, like, he is, in my opinion, the first genuine threat in the entire franchise, because he actually brought something to the table. Like, Diesel, you know, he was just, you know, dicking around a lot, you know, just causing trouble here and there. Diesel 10 comes in and he, like, actually starts, like, a genuine threat to the steam engine's lives, you know? And that's what I love so much about him. He was a force to be reckoned with. To move on from that and talk about the score for this movie is top 5 best scores, in my opinion, because It is just, I don't know how a score like that is in a movie like this, you know? Like, it's one of those things that doesn't make sense, you know? Yeah, no, I think Hummy Man, and it was just so good. But, like, my overall thoughts on the film, it has, like, always been like this. I have no idea how to engage my thoughts, because I remember one night, I watched it with Magic Road Studios, and we were just talking about it for a bit. I still don't know what I think about this film. You know, on one hand, it's like, oh, you know, this movie is, you know, horrible because of the amount of plot lines it has that they just don't go through with, and how nothing is explained to you. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, I grew up with this. I don't want to, you know, it can't possibly be that bad. I feel like, you know, I have a very troubled way of engaging my thoughts on stuff sometimes, and Magic Road is definitely one of those. I think for a bit, it's been like I'm in the middle on it, because there are a lot of great things, you know, like Diesel 10, the score, the model work, you know, fantastic stuff like that. On the other side, it's like, what is even happening, you know? Like, the script is so confusing, and the characters don't even do much, you know? Like, especially the train characters, which you come to see, don't do much, like, at all. So I do think I am in the middle on Magic Road. You know, I give it like probably like a 5.2 out of 10. I just don't know, because I grew up with this film religiously. But, you know, it's just one of those childhood things that I like. And I feel like it's one of those things where Magic Road kind of painted the way I view stuff. When you're a kid, you know, you think everything's great. And, oh, look at that. Oh, it's Thomas. This must be good. And as you grow up, you start to think, oh, I don't remember it being this bad. In my opinion, I think Thomas and the Magic Road is a very troubled film. It's a convoluted mess. We'll just say it like that. It's one of those things that, like, just puts a smile on my face every time I see it. It's an enjoyable mess, you know? It's messy. It sucks in some places, but it's enjoyable.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Heh. Yeah, more like Thomas and the Tragic Fail Road. It's been 25 years since this movie came out, and it is known for being the biggest flop in Thomas's history at the box office, which would lead to some, if not a big decrease in quality. A new writing team stepped in, Britt Holcroft stepped down as producer of the show, Mike and Jr. left after season 7, Hit Entertainment bought the rights of the show and later made the whole thing worse than before, with the many ups and downs of the CGI series, especially in the case of the Nitrogen and Wobble eras.
Big balloons make my boiler bubble, Thomas!
Shut the hell up! Also not canon to the series itself. Except for that one time in Call Little Engines, but what can I say? It was something. So, Magic Railroad. If I have to confess, while I did vaguely watch this movie when I was a kid, I don't think I have a lot of fond memories watching it. And it's not because of the fact it sucks balls. I was just a little kid that didn't care that much. So I watched other Thomas movies that interest me the most. Like Hero of the Rails, for example. Golden movie, by the way. But I don't know. I just felt like it looked okay, weird, out of the ordinary for a Thomas movie. I don't know. Now that the years have passed and I'm a big boy who needs to apply for a job, I rewatched this movie out of curiosity, and I can safely say that this movie is... it's okay. It's not the greatest movie of all time, mind you, but also not the worst thing to watch either. It's fine, but it has problems. A lot of problems, which I'm not going to cover those since I think Michael already talked about it. Maybe. So instead, I'm going to give some of my brief good opinions with this movie, very quickly. The direction of this movie is actually really great. You know, for being the very first Thomas movie to appear on the big screen using live action models, I think David Mitton really did a fantastic job with this one. I like some of the lower ground shots for some of the engines like Henry here, this one for Gordon here, these leveled up camera shots as Thomas passed through these bends, same with the chasing here, this shot of Lily and Jr. watching the engines pass by each other, oh and Bertie too, and I like some of the shots of the watermill, both day and night shots, really emphasis on how it looked like before in seasons 2 and 3. Every characteristic from the engines as personas are on point in the soda scenes, and I like to believe Thomas was the most well written character on this one, cause you know, he's the quote-unquote main character. The acting for the humans is actually really well done, especially Alec Bowen and Michael Rogers, which I think both of these dudes had the most fun playing as Mr. C and Jr. together, and it shows. And I'm just gonna say this as well. The score is a freaking banger. Yeah, as predictable as it sounds, I just can't ignore how absolutely well composed the soundtrack for this movie was made. In fact, I'm going as far as to say that I love it. Some of you probably know me very well from making my own recreations and some little original compositions from the show, and I think you all know where I'm coming from, because I'm usually a sucker when it comes to topics like this. Homie-Man cooked with this soundtrack, and every single character theme and songs were really well thought out and put together. Like Thomas's theme, the Shining Time Station song, the freaking chasing, which we all know this one is iconic, and of course the really useful engine song, the Stephen Page version specifically. Overall, all these aspects from the movie I've discussed at this point are the ones that I, and many of you, like about this movie. And as much as some of the production process of this movie went through actual hell to be done and changed with the amount of backlash from the test audiences and the critics who claimed to be the most train wreck failure it received when it came out, no pun intended by the way, I'd say that Brit, despite her attempts of rewrites and scene changes, really wanted to try something new for the franchise she never done before. Even if I'm not very fond of the idea of a steam locomotive who's claimed to be a literal god, giving life to the engines in a town that also has a tiny little conductor who appears to have magic, and also a gigantic diesel with a claw wanted to destroy her so that both worlds don't have any trace of magic within them, despite the fact he's also gonna die too. But I digress. The damage was already done. And, well, I think that's basically everything I have to say for my part. If you're liking this big review so far, then make sure to subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more Thomas content. I post music, remix, and possibly some review videos I have in store for the future. Oh, and I also make videos about Hilda, if you know what that show is.
I guess we're all in the same boat then. Or the same train.
Also, make sure to subscribe to Magic Man as well when you get the chance.
Hey, look, I guess this makes up for the fact that I never did that Magic Railroad review myself. So what are my thoughts on Thomas and the Drug Trip Failroad?
I like it, but not a lot. I don't like it.
To be fair, I do not think this is the worst Thomas movie ever made, like some people claim, as I think there are so many worse movies out there. Looking at these two piles of shit. And like a lot of you, I do have a lot of childhood nostalgia for this movie, but I don't let my childhood nostalgia blind the fact that this movie is a convoluted mess. The plot is just all over the place and makes no sense. The pacing is just terrible. We keep going back and forth between Sodor, Shining Time, Muffle Mountain, Thomas, Mr. Conductor, Peter Fonda, Matilda, this Scottish person for some reason. Like, did Sony write this movie? Because there's like a billion plots going on and I can't keep up with every single one. All the magic elements like a multiversal portal railroad or Goldust really do not work in Thomas for so many reasons. Like, yeah, a TV show based off a book series where it took place in the real world and the trains operated like real trains with real life events attached to it, now just has some sort of multiversal portal and a godlike train. The acting is just all over the place. We got Peter Fonda, who clearly looks dead inside. Matilda over here is just lost, like clearly she doesn't know what the hell's going on. And I'm pretty sure Alec Baldwin here is snorting his own gold dust in between takes, cause I don't know what the heck he's on in between takes.
I'd like to have a nice cup of hot cocoa. Would you fellas care to join me? No? What would you rather do instead? Go outside and play? Well, I can understand that. What do you think? Why do you keep hitting him like that? You're gonna have a timeout.
And above all the problems in this movie, the worst one has to be the fact Thomas the Tank Engine finally gets his own movie, but has little to no relevance in the plot. In fact, he's not even the main character most of the time. The movie flip-flops between having Alec Baldwin and Matilda here being the main characters in a Thomas the Tank Engine movie. Like, bruh, nobody came into this movie wanting to see these three just mess around for like 2 hours. We came to see the little blue train with the face from the show do some stuff. And we don't get much of him. He's only in it for like, what, 12 minutes? The most Thomas does is take Matilda here through the multiversal portal railroad. That is literally the only thing Thomas does that helps service the plot in any way. I mean, I guess he does kind of participate in the chase scene in the finale, but doesn't really do much. He's just kind of there. He was more like the meat shield for Lady, I guess. Now, I want to be fair here. I do not think the movie is all bad. In fact, I think there are some redeeming aspects about this movie. For one, even though Thomas and his friends were not in most of the movie, when they are on screen, it is so cool, man. Seeing the props from the actual show on actual movie film is just so cool to me. This is the Thomas I want to see on the big screen. This is how I imagine the island of Sodor looking like. And the voice acting for these engines are pretty spot on. Okay, the voices for James and Percy suck, but everyone else sounds about how I expect these characters to sound like, especially Eddie Glenn's Thomas.
Sorry, Bertie, I can't today. I have to be a really useful engine and solve some mysteries instead.
I guess that means I win. Perhaps another day.
Who, in my mind, is kind of the definitive voice for Thomas. Diesel 10 is also the best character introduced in this movie, as not only does he look cool and intimidating in some parts, but he's also just a lot of fun to watch. He blends both funny and threatening perfectly, and when they need to make him funny, he is hilarious, especially when you combine his antics with Splatter and Dodge. Then you just have a comedy gold right here. And above everything else, the soundtrack slaps. This is easily one of my top 5 favorite soundtracks in any movie. There's just so many memorable themes in this movie that live rent-free in my head. And I love the fact how it's a mix between original music and themes from the show. The Really Useful Engine song is still the best theme in the movie, and the best version of this song, Suck It, Adventure Begins. However, the few good things in this movie do not save the many problems this movie has. As not only was it a critical and box office failure, this movie kind of soured the reputation Thomas had in the general public. People's perception on Thomas completely changed after this movie. For once they thought Thomas was a smart show with great morals, great model work, and realism, is now just seen as a dumb kid show where the trains talk and are alive because of a magical train who runs a magical railroad, and you can only get to it with gold dust. And somehow Alec Baldwin's in this movie. What could have easily been the Thomas equivalent to the SpongeBob movie, or the Super Mario Bros. Movie, or the Sonic movie? You know, movies that take what you love about the shows and the games and elevate it to a cinematic level, just turned out to be one of Thomas's biggest blunders in the entire franchise. And sadly, this blunder had a permanent effect on the brand that sadly never recovered from it. So I'm going to give this movie a fair 4 out of 10. It's not the worst movie in the world, but it ain't that good either.
Hello everyone, this is Colors Engine here, and I'm gonna give my overall thoughts on Magic Railroad. I'm not really the type of person to be good with reviewing stuff, like right now I'm doing this without a script, so that doesn't help, but I'll do my best. You see, what I think about Magic Railroad is that it's a movie. Yeah, no shit. The movie where, like, when you watched it back when you were a kid, you used to think that was like peak fiction, like there's nothing better than this. But then you see it again when you're older, and then you think, this shit's kind of ass. Magic Railroad's story was never its strongest point, but the visuals, on the other hand, more specifically the model work, As a kid, I would always skip the human parts, but when the trains were on, I was sat down and locked in. I don't know how to explain it, but the island of Sodor is so vibrant in the Magic Railroad. Like, it's so comfy to look at. The night shots, the day shots, the morning shots, they're all shot wonderfully. At the moment, my favorite shot in the movie is this one of Thomas going through the fog. I just love it. In fact, my favorite scene is Thomas going through the magic buffers. The lighting, the painting background, the CGI, and most importantly, the score by Hummy Man. It's phenomenal. That's another strong point in this movie, the score. Look, I'm gonna play the clip where Thomas goes through the Magic Railroad, and I want you to listen to the score.
You're a really useful engine, Thomas.
I had to pitch up the music, but you can hear the orchestral cover of A Really Useful Engine, and it's just fantastic. I just love hearing it every time I see that scene. And that's all I have to say about Magic Railroad. Those are my thoughts. Like, I don't care about the story, I just care about the trains. Like, I doubt any kid cared for the story, they were just there because trains. They love trains. I'd score Thomas and the Magic Railroad like a 5 out of 10. Like, it's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie either. It does good on the model work, it does good on the soundtrack, the CGI as well. It's just the story that's a little not that great. Like, if you're gonna make a Thomas movie, first and foremost, make it about Thomas, because Thomas only has like 11 minutes of screen time in this movie. I would like to thank Magic Railroad Studios for inviting me. It was very fun to do this video. And that concludes my part of the video. I hope y'all have a great day, and Careless Engine out.
Okay. I don't think many people outside of like family know about my really weird obsession with this movie. Like, this is the kind of thing I used to watch a lot when I was 4 years old, and honestly, genuinely, every time I have to rewatch it now, like maybe for a video, potential remake, etc., it still feels kind of nostalgic in a way. I can't fully say I hate this movie, and yeah, that's a huge bias, but I can't even say I fully love it either, because yeah, I've come to terms with its flaws. It's not a perfect movie. That kind of sucks, especially since this was Thomas's first theatrical outing, and it did so bad that, well, for the remainder 13 films, he was never seen in theaters again. It's a little depressing in retrospect, but still, it's still good to see what good came out of this movie. Like, all the amazing new engine characters, the wonderful cast, especially with Alec Baldwin losing his mind over vegetables, and especially with all the other stuff that's come from this movie. It's genuinely amazing what this movie accomplished, or at least was trying to. At the end of the day, it was one big passion project by Britt Allcroft, God rest her soul, and damn it, she made a movie. Even if that movie didn't turn out great, but damn it, she made a movie. I also want to give like a personal shout out with some of the voice actors. Eddie Glenn, Kevin Frank, Neil Crone, those two especially, we'll get to them in a minute. It's nice that they probably didn't even know what Thomas was at the time, and yet they provided their voices for such a footnote in history, this of course being, again, Thomas's first outing in the theaters. And, well, I gotta admit, they did great with the little amount of screen time the engines get. They still did amazingly. Everyone did amazingly. And again, going back to Neil Crone and Kevin Frank, as you might have heard from a good friend of mine who did that Splot video with me, Kevin Frank and Neil Crone were creative consultants on this movie. And, well, yeah, they did make the movie a lot more funnier, especially with Splatter and Dodge. That's another thing. Again, like I've mentioned, the new engine characters were amazing. They were all amazingly designed. They were clever. Kind of including Lady in this case, since, you know, even though she doesn't really appear until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, but still. Like, Diesel 10 was such a, like, he's like the villain. Let's be honest, he's the Thomas villain when you think of like a Thomas villain. He's that guy. He's the guy. I'm the guy. Again, like, Splodge, they're just Kevin Frank and Neil Crone just bouncing off each other because they're so naturally comedic. They're such a wonderful duo. Still sucks we never got to see them again, but, you know, man can dream. But still, at the end of the day, this movie is fantastic, and god damn it, it's such an enjoyable watch. I love this movie. Thank you for everything, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, even with your faults.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad was my first exposure to the entirety of Thomas the Tank Engine, and by God, what an intro it was. I mean, like, Diesel 10, and, you know, the whole conspiracy of a lost engine and everything, and, like, Sodor being this, like, magical land and everything. I don't know what it was about me as a kid, but I just loved the idea of magic in movies. Like, oh, it's so whimsy and stuff. But then when I actually went on to watch Thomas, I find out it's very real-worldy, and I started to understand even at such a young age why people didn't like Magic Railroad at all. So, yeah, I can start to see why this movie has some problems. But what we're here to talk about is my ultimate thoughts on the movie. It's a 5 out of 10. It is objectively mid, and is what put Thomas in the downward spiral, but it's nostalgia bait at its finest in 2025. So I want to wish a major happy 25th anniversary to Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and I can't stay mad at it. I look at it the same way I look at Murder Drones or Cars 2, you know? It's a guilty pleasure. I know it is completely stupid. It makes no sense at all, but I still love it. I think we all have guilty pleasures like that we just can't explain, you know? It's weird, but my dad has told me that he has memories of sitting down with me watching the movie. He remembers seeing Alec Baldwin in the conductor outfit. My mum always remembers me pointing to the screen when Lady was on screen being like, I want a Tommy toy of that one. Lo and behold, I'll show a picture on screen. I've now got her. Well, I had her as a kid, but then when I got rid of all my Thomas toys because I was a huge wuss when I watched Shed 17 for the first time, and then only recently used God knows how much of my adult money to buy Thomas toys. Okay. Oh my God, I'm such a child. And then I would later go on as an animator to recreate the most iconic scene of the movie. And then I do it again. And then I do it one more time. This movie, there is a certain essence to Magic Railroad that no other Thomas movie has. Not a single one. It's not just the notion it was released in theaters. It's not just the notion that it sucked and bombed at the box office and is probably, I'd say this is the most popular Thomas movie because of what it did to the franchise. Yes, it put it in a downward spiral, but like, isn't that just the magic of it? In terms of the fandom, the Thomas fandom, this is the movie that gets the most remakes. There are a billion different remakes of multiple scenes from multiple people over the last God knows how long that YouTube has been a thing, and people have known how to edit videos. You got the chase scene, the coal hopper scene, the intro, the ending, even if it's so much as just 10 seconds. The inspiration that this movie created is nothing short of absolutely amazing, and that's what I love for it. It is a vessel for inspiration. It is possibly the greatest work of Thomas fanfiction in the world, and nothing will top this. And I'm still waiting for that sequel. Mark Forster movie plot twist, it's Magic Railroad 2. Mattel, make Magic Railroad 2 in CGI, and my life is yours. But yeah, those are just my ramblings on Magic Railroad. I genuinely do love the movie despite all of its problems. It's just so cool to have contributed to the fandom in terms of keeping this movie alive, and the fact that we finally, after like 20 years of waiting, got that blueprint. Blueprint? Workprint. I need to go to bed, man. Don't mind me. I'm sleepy drunk. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. Working is fine. Being an adult is fine. But yeah, those are my thoughts, folks. Thanks for listening. This is the Amazing Gamer 111 signing off on this collaborative celebration of Thomas and the Magic Railroad's 25th anniversary. Y'all have a good day, and I will see y'all later.
So, after hearing my friends' thoughts on the movie, biggest flaws this movie has, and kind of having a part of Thomas's image being tainted afterwards, do I still love Thomas and the Magic Railroad? Honestly, yes. But being a massive fan of this movie, it's nowhere near being the best Thomas film. And I just can't say that this movie is flawless, because it isn't in the slightest. But there's just something about Magic Railroad that I just can't seem to let go of. I'm not even sure what it is. But I will say this. Out of all the movies that bring beloved children's characters to the big screen, Thomas, I think, got away with it the best. Movies like Alvin the Chipmunks, Garfield, Smurfs, Yogi Bear, hell, even the 2 live-action Dr. Seuss films, they all just feel like cash grabs. including a lot of adult jokes, dirty jokes, and advertising galore. Thomas and the Magic Railroad feels like it has heart put into it, and it was Britt's passion project. The actors that played in the film all these years later still talk very positively about their experience on set, not just Baldwin. And I will say this too, I much rather have Thomas go through a Magic Railroad line going through the 12th dimension than having Thomas jump off the tracks, being a rocket ship, an airplane, be near dancing robots, and especially being an elephant. And I'm sure anyone would take this any day over Guava and Misty Island. And I believe that's it, folks. I'm finally glad that I got around to reviewing this movie at last. Like I said earlier, I don't plan to really talk about the director's cut because there are so many videos talking about it, within the Thomas fandom or not. And so we've come to the end of this review, but it's time for all of us to go home, just like Thomas. Now that we finally did a movie review, does that mean I'm going to review another one? You're damn right, because next year, we're going to take a look at my favorite movie of all time.
Dang gum!